A feud has ensued between a 68-year-old retired teacher and her senior living community as they threatened to evict her for allegedly partying too much, which if she were actually doing that as a 68-year-old woman, I would say she should be celebrated more than anything. But nonetheless, here are the details. Vivian Jackson has lived at the Emanuel Cleaver II senior living community for the past 3 years, which she described as a nightmare. Now, why is it a nightmare? As the Kansas City Star explains, in the span of 3 years living there, Jackson, a retired teacher, has been injured several times when her apartment repeatedly flooded. She has found management careless in responding to her problems and making repairs. Worse, the property managers are now accusing the 68-year-old grandmother of throwing disruptive parties with loud music and excessive numbers of guests, she said. Now, Jackson, who does not move around easily because of her injuries and also uses a cane, says the accusations that she's partying are false and in fact pretty absurd. And honestly, I believe her. So she has suffered from severe nerve damage for 20 years. And since moving into the senior living center, her health has only gotten worse. The flooding in her bathroom has caused her to fall more than once, injuring her arm and leg. Jackson said she has limited use of her hands because of nerve damage. In February, Jackson was hurt in a car accident and she is still being treated for injuries to her shoulder and leg. But John, I'm sure she's lying. I'm sure she's a massive party animal. She's throwing ragers all night long, keeping all the neighbors up.
You put together all of those different injuries and that seems like a person primed to party, I think. Ragers, you said she uses a cane, I'm assuming as a bar for limbo. I'm assuming. It seems like this is a person who has brought up issues with the property and with the management. And rather than fixing those issues, they want to fix her, who they see as the issue.
That's right.
And so what do? Like, you're not going to make claims that can be checked. How do you prove or disprove whether she had a loud party 6 weeks ago? It's impossible. And so this is how anybody who complains about their landlord, they always say that they were a disruptive tenant or whatever. And look, some people are, that's what makes it plausible. We've all had the experience of living next to a person who makes too much noise or whatever. But if she's having these big parties and all these people are coming over, you would presume that there would be witnesses, that people living next to her would say something. It doesn't seem plausible. She's bringing in, like the place is flooded constantly and she's using it as the site for parties.
They're trying to evict her and they're looking for any excuse to do so without taking responsibility for the shoddy management. If these accusations, are true, and I believe her, I personally believe her. So the only outside guest, by the way, that she has visiting her happened to be her friend and nurse, Virginia Sanders, who visit during the day, and then there are her sons who come to help her at night. So Sanders—
How many sons does she have, like 40, 50, or the musicians?
No, I believe she has 2 sons, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
so Sanders said she thinks the property management has a problem with Jackson's sons coming to care for her during the night and being in the home because they are not on the lease. That's the other thing, man. Like, this is the other thing with some landlords, not all of them. Just get off everyone's balls, for the love of God. Like the thing about, but you had people staying with, this is my home that I pay for. I pay you every month to be here. So it's none of your goddamn business who I have come over to stay with me every once in a while.
Yeah.
Right, like now look, that's different from what I did when I was renting my first apartment in West Hollywood and I started dating Christian. At some point, Christian just moved in with me full time. And my landlord's like, yeah, I mean, I know you're trying to hide this, but I know it's happening and I've gotta increase your rent. Which, to be fair, that was the lease agreement. I agreed to that.
I did the same thing with a dog.
I did that with the dog too.
When I got the apartment, I didn't have a dog. I started dating a dog, and then I just tried to pass it off as if I wasn't. No, I'm kidding. I said that it was like a friend's dog that I was just keeping. No. And they saw us swimming together.
Yep, I did that too. Too. Then I increased my rent a little bit for Charlie, which was worth it.
Yeah. So by the way, like how many nights per month are her sons staying over? Like there's got to be some sort of actual threshold in the lease. And the idea that they're coming during the day to care for her, one would think that would not be particularly notable in a nursing home.
Exactly.
Doesn't everyone's family come to take care of them?
By the way, it's not a nursing home, it's a senior living facility. But you're 100% right. I mean, first of all, you should be happy and you should celebrate the fact that this woman's sons show up to visit her, to help take care of her. That's awesome. Instead, I mean, look, we don't know for sure. There's the speculation that is the problem that they have with her, that she has her sons and her friend visit her. Jackson received 3 letters from attorneys at the Ramsey Barhorst Law Office in Kansas City, which represents the owner of the senior living center, telling her that she needs to move out of the unit by July 31st, or they will take her to court. Threatening to take a 68-year-old woman to court who has all these severe injuries and who suffered some, very serious problems as a result of the flooding in her unit. But nonetheless,
which, by the way, persistent flooding would be something that does leave actual evidence.
Yeah, that's true.
So
water damage and all of that.
Yeah, if they want to adjudicate that, she could have some sort of expert come in and test for mold and test for damage and all that.
Now she relies on Section 8 in order to pay for her housing. So she pays a certain amount and then the government makes up the difference and pays the landlord on her behalf. But now she's having a hard time finding a new landlord who will accept her housing voucher. So this is a woman in her senior years getting threatened with eviction, okay? If she's forced to leave, she doesn't know where she will go or who will help her find a place to live. The way that we treat elderly people in this country is so gross. The lack of protections for elderly people is so gross.
Yeah.
And she says, quote, "I've gone to my church and other people. I don't want myself put out on the street. My daughter can't help right now. She's in Georgia. I just need some help. My heart breaks for this woman."
Yeah, I was reading, we're gonna do it tomorrow on TDR when Gary Chambers is on us. There was this new study talking to a bunch of unhoused people in California and talking about how much notice they had before they lost housing. And it was often very little, 10 days around. People who were living with friends and family, sometimes it was a day that they had. And they also talked about how much money it would have been necessary for them to not lose housing. And many were like literally $300 to $500 a month and I would still be in housing or whatever. So she actually had access to the housing voucher, which is good. But this story to me almost reads like, if I asked ChatGPT to generate a John Oliver segment, like it has abuse in a senior living center. It has Section 8 housing effectively being discriminated against and there being very little actual stock of units, people being willing to take it. Like I feel like he's covered all of this and you have one person living through multiple different issues, all intersecting.
Yeah.
And no part of the system being set up in a way that actually protects or prioritizes her needs.
It is terrifying. I mean, one of the things that breaks my heart the most when it comes to, the homeless population in Los Angeles. And by the way, this is a side note, but Mayor Karen Bass is killing it. And I want to give her a lot of credit for what she's doing. I'm seeing a notable difference on our streets. It's very obvious to me that her plan in housing the unhoused is working. She's having the city buy up entire hotels, hotel buildings in order to, permanently house people in those units. She's doing a great job. So I know that's a side note, but I really wanted to get that off my chest. She's fantastic, an incredible improvement from Eric Garcetti, keeping it honest.
Who you loved.
Could not
stand.
So
the fact that you like her more than him is impressive.
I love the job she's doing. She deserves
you had his
tremendous
poster
kudos.
up in your house.
No, I did not.
It was a little bit weird.
That is not true.
There was lipstick stains.
Okay. Anyway, though, now I've lost my train of thought. John.
I apologize. The woman who was being abused by her senior living center.
I was referring to. Okay, so especially at the height of the pandemic, when the homeless population really exploded in Los Angeles, what I really noticed was the prevalence of elderly people on the streets. And how do we just allow that to happen? How do we allow elderly people, veterans, to just live and die on our streets? I think about that. It's one of my biggest fears, John, because look, some people are lucky and they have family members who will take care of them. They might have children who will take care of them and take them in. But I also think about the lower birth rates, especially among millennials and younger generations, who might not have family members to lean on in their senior years. And if you don't have a system set up to catch people when they fall, especially in their senior years, I mean, they're gonna end up on the streets. There's gonna be a lot of misery and a lot of pain. And we gotta do something about that.
Yeah, and it's, first of all, how much freedom? Are we doing another story or are we free to talk for a few minutes?
You have a minute or so, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's this sort of like situation tailor-made for what you're talking about right there is theoretically in 30, 40, 50 years gonna be an absolute disaster. But I can also imagine like the right-wing media of that era like demonizing how young people aren't doing enough for older people. Like they love to play at that laziness thing. Like we are putting so many issues on future generations and then we'll be demonizing them in 20, 30 years as they're trying to work through the terrible status quo that we've established for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.